Good morning, Bucknutters. It's Tuesday, May 24th, 2016. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5. As you have already ascertained, I am battling a sore throat, or as I like to call it, I should stop yelling at the refs so much in my kids' games. But I digress. It's Tuesday. Duane Long is back in his normal spot. We're ready to get after it. Duane, how are you this fine morning? I got to say something. There's another beautiful day in the Gem City.
Well, we've been needing a few of those up here. I mean, I got so tired of looking at the rain. I was like, where are we? I mean, this isn't London. This is crazy, but it's finally coming around. We're getting some good, comfortable weather here, sunny days, so it's good. It just means cutting the grass more, though. That's a bad thing.
We do deserve it. I walked into a select basketball tournament this past weekend at Hilliard, Davidson, or Darby, or one of those schools, and it was raining sideways at me. So, enough of that. But we digress. We're all into it. Got a couple interesting topics to go over with today. The first of which, since we've got Duane on here, when there's big guys involved, we want our big guy involved. Duane, we're going to talk about Jay Tufele. Defensive tackle has been I'm not saying it's been a concern, but if there's been one spot they haven't hit the home run at recruiting yet, it's probably defensive tackle. What do you think of Tufele? He's, of course, the Utah native who was blowing up recently. Went to the opening in Oakland and was invited to the next stage. Your thoughts on Tufele? Is he worth what seems to be some considerable recruiting resources being devoted to?
When I look at his film, I see a great football player. My concern about him was I didn't see a big-bodied kid. I didn't see a kid that I use the term that looks like he's going to get wide, not big. He just does not look like he has that elite frame you're looking for, and the level of competition. Well, his performance out there, it started to alleviate that concern for me. That he went out there and Barton Simmons has come back saying he might be the best tackle in the country. And my immediate thought was, I flashed to Marvin Wilson. I said, if there's anybody better than Marvin Wilson, I want to see him. So if he's looking that good, then this is a big deal. We'll worry about the frame. We'll see what Mariotti can do with him. Maybe he'll be able to put the good weight on this kid, and he won't just get wide on us. But that even could be a good thing. One techniques they're not exactly body beautifuls. So, that's a good thing about him. You see him on film, he dominates, but that level of competition out there just left me wanting. If he's going to these events and beating up on guys that are elite offensive linemen, that he would go up against in college, well, that's another thing. That completely changes the dynamic. That's a good thing about these. Too many people get the shorts and T-shirts. I said, especially with the linemen, Dan, you're talking about those guys are doing the same things they would do if they had pads on. That's the one thing that separates it. Like quarterbacks, I think get the most out of the combines as far as publicity. Oh, he looked great. Well, there's no pass rush. There's that right there changes on the dynamic. With the linemen, they're going at it. There's an argument that they should have learned to have pads and helmets on. So him looking good there, that's a big deal. And it looks like there's some kind of connection to Columbus, and we could pull the guy out of there. That would be huge.
No doubt. That's one of those positions too where I realize they're going to take some chances, but that's where your North Dakotas and Utahs, I think I'm willing to make another investment in a player like that, whereas quarterbacks and the other guys, I'd rather see them come out of a more developed system. Another kind of an interesting ongoing issue here, just kind of, I don't know if I'm going to call it the elephant in the room, but maybe the llama in the room, size-wise. Sean Wade and the discussion of cornerbacks. I think there is still a widespread belief that Wade won't be part of the class. I have to say, I've kind of picked up on that narrative as well. I really don't have a fact to base on it, except kind of like being the jilted, I don't want to say lover here, but the jilted lover with the Florida recruit again. We kind of just expect the Wild West to kick in on that. And there's so much discussion of Lamont Wade and space. If this was your call here, what would you go about? How would you go about it? Would you offer another corner? Would you wait it out on Shaun Wade?
Well, I don't see where our depth is so great, especially since we're rotating guys back to safety. We've snatched a couple of our cornerbacks and moved them to safety with Glover Williams and Damon Webb. So, you know, we've got room to add some guys on. Lamont Wade impresses me. He does not have elite size. He's a little on the shorter side, but we see plenty of 5'9" cornerbacks. So that's not that big a deal. There's no way I would send Shaun Wade a letter of intent on letter of intent day if I thought, you know, there's just, the kid is a whole nother level. He's 6'1". He's got elite athleticism. He brings it in the run game. He's got great ball skills. He's just another level. You don't let that guy go. If you don't have him, you go after him. If you do have him, you do everything you can to hang on to him. That does not mean that they don't go after Lamont Wade. Adding cornerbacks, if you want to pressure, you have to have cornerbacks who can play out there, man up, and take receivers out of the game. You have to have it. Pressure is you got to back off pressure. You've got to flood the secondary bodies if you can't cover. So having these kind of guys, there's not a thing. There's too many of them. It just no, forget about it. Let's throw Darnay Holmes into the conversation because he too is as much as I like Wade, he's better. I'm talking about Lamont Wade, not Shaun Wade. Darnay Holmes is spectacular. He's incredible. I see why we're going after him. I don't know about that number one ranking when you've got a Shaun Wade out there who's over 6 feet tall, and how important that is with these taller receivers. That you've got a 5'10" guy rated number one, but skill-wise, he's tremendous. Unbelievable football player. He might be a better offensive football player. He's very impressive. He just does not have that size that you want in a running back. He's 5'10", about 180. And I don't know if he's going to be a guy that's going to get over 200 pounds. So, you know, I don't know about that, but he's just one of the elite athletes in the entire class. So, that we're going after him so hard. Love to get a visit out of him. It's going to be kind of hard to get a guy to come cross country like that for 4 years, but you got to try to go after him. That's the thing that Urban Meyer does. The entire nation is his recruiting backyard. He does not understand distance, it doesn't appear, and that's good for us. Those guys right there, and we've already got I've got a good football player in, so it's we want to add to that. We want to keep going with that. Jeff Okuda, safety, would be a massive get. Probably the one guy that I would say in the class, just as far as defensive backs are concerned, corner, safety, both, he's even better than Shaun Wade. Getting him would be massive. So, this great defensive back class in general, cornerbacks and safeties. Last year, I thought it was poor. Safety was cornerback was above average, pretty decent. Safety was the worst class I can remember in all the years I've been doing this. This year we can.
And when you say the worst class, you don't mean Ohio State's Hall. You mean the class in general.
The recruiting class as far as cornerbacks cornerbacks and safeties in general. Safety class was awful.
Yeah, and you know what? Philosophically, I'm with you, because if you really look at it, I think you can make an argument in like practical application that there are 12 starters in football now. Excuse my voice again. The nickel corner, or however you're going to address your first defensive back or hybrid guy off the bench, he ends up playing as many snaps as the other starters, or a lot of them. So it would make sense that you would be a little heavy at corner, especially with, I don't think the spread offense is going back in the bag. It's out for good. And there are plenty of teams Ohio State's going to play that are going to line up 3 and 4 receivers. When you can man up these guys, early on, this used to be a case of they would just line up 3 receivers and pick out your worst corner. And it was very obvious. Teams that have responded to that are now putting studs into their slot. So it would be a big pickup for them. Okay, here's the one that may make me lose my voice again. ESPN is providing us again some off-season interest and fodder. And yes, we all realize this is just chatter, and we're doing it for fun. But again, the show is called the Bucknuts Morning 5, and the site is called Bucknuts, not Buck Rational Observers. So we're going to get nuts here a little bit. ESPN has come out with a poll and done some fancy stuff, and they've listed Ohio State among teams that have no chance to win the college football playoff. What gives?
Insanity. There was another story done that said why Ohio State, a team that lost 1 game, would be better next year than they were last year.
Yeah, it was Booger McFarland said that.
What? So we're not going to win 9 games. We're going to be better than last year, where we won all but 1. So explain this to me. The rationale. I don't understand why we can't win this thing. We're young. Yeah, understood. That's what, I in the bucket I did this weekend, I was talking about the insanity that's reigning about all these picks. It's dumb to begin with because nobody knows anything about these football teams at this point, especially one as young as ours. Forget about it. You don't know this team yet. You haven't seen anything. That's why they changed the way they did for the playoffs. They didn't even start voting on it until halfway through the season. Okay, that's smart because we don't know what we got. And it's just something that I think that what we're doing right now is why they do it. They're going to get some kind of reaction. They're going to get page hit.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that makes any sense. That's what they're doing. 9 wins. People are talking about we're going to get 9 wins. If you look at the schedule, what teams are going to beat us? Show me 3 teams that are definitely going to beat us. And when it was 8.5, so we're talking about you think 4 teams are going to beat us. Okay, which 4 are going to beat us? It makes no sense. They're just trying to get page hits. I don't even bother with them anymore. Because there's no argument. They don't know. Nobody at ESPN knows this team better than we do at Bucknuts. They don't. And we don't know. We don't know. So what do they know? We don't know what we've got. We've got so many young guys out there. So, let them run their mouths. They apparently need the hits. It's nonsense. One thing I want to say about Sean Wade, he is not decommitted, and he is not usually the guys that you've got to worry about leaving, that they're going to decommit. Those guys, they usually are visiting a lot, just like they are not committed at all. And he's not doing that. So let's see what happens here.
No doubt. So I don't want to go back totally to that, but I agree. That narrative, like I said when I brought that up, I don't base that on anything. It was just kind of a jilted lovers narrative, and let's hope it doesn't go that way. Hopping back to the ESPN deal, the 11 teams they put 11 teams they thought could win, and 7 that couldn't. I'm not even going to go into it, but I will say this: among the teams they think can win, meaning teams that can win and Ohio State can't, Houston, Michigan, and Tennessee. Now, I'm not even going to address that. That's preposterous. Here's what I don't grasp, and why I think you really can make the argument that there's some attempt from ESPN to benefit off Ohio State's name here. People were concerned that, how are they going to replace Carlos Hyde? The way of recruiting under Meyer is, it's hard enough to believe this, but the guy behind the starter may be better. That's where we're at. You can't convince me that Isaiah Prince isn't a better left tackle prospect eventually than Taylor Decker. I'm not saying he's going to turn into that, but the potential is there, even if he's not starting there now. I mean, prototype-wise, they've got guys all over the field. I mean, excuse me, Dante Booker, I'm sorry, is a better prospect than Josh Perry. Just because he wasn't starting over him doesn't mean he won't eventually be a better player. So maybe this is another year of the national media having to buy into recruiting, but there's an elasticity to recruiting. You know, when you sign these guys, they're not here for a while. And we all know Ohio State has finished very high in the rankings the last few years, and so has Alabama, and I will stick to this. Anybody picking anyone besides Ohio State or Alabama to win the national championship, it's going to end up being outside the money. Your thoughts?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. There was several times I wanted to jump in and say, yep, and that's it right now. Nobody's recruiting like that. You may want to go so far as to throw Florida State in there. But for the most part, but for the most part, that's what you're looking at. I mean, Clemson's not. Right now, they've got the best quarterback we've seen in a few years in college football. That's the difference in them. They're going to be good, but that's for one more year because he's going to the NFL and be number one pick overall. Okay, but anyway, what you're saying is true there. That you can't. Outside the money is the truth. You're picking against the odds if you're picking against Ohio State and Alabama. And you pointed out a few guys there. Josh Perry was such a solid guy, but Dante Booker is a playmaker. He's going to make plays that Josh Perry did not. He's faster. He's more athletic. He's the only thing Perry had on him was size. And just that he was that stay-at-home guy that was always going to do his responsibility, and that was going to be the end of it. Booker's going to be better. Isaiah Prince is even more so a prototype tackle than Taylor Decker. So, you know, the talent level, it's rolling them up, and it's the guy that's starting is the guy that's got the experience. He's worked harder, or I'm not going to say harder. He's worked hard enough to earn the job.
Sure.
And he's got more experience, and that's the difference. We're not seeing, okay, what are we going to do next year? That's not happening at Ohio State anymore. It is really a matter of next. You know, just bring the next piece of talent in. And I think Meyer's done a really spectacular job upgrading positions. We were always talking about, I was raising hell all the time about the offensive line, and I was right about that. Now look at this offensive line. It's the talent level is, I never thought we'd see it again at Ohio State. So it really is a matter of we're rolling up talent just the same way Alabama is. That's what's going on right now. It's a matter of getting them in and coaching them up. That's all that's happening. The NFL factories are what we're talking about right now. And like I said, Florida State might be one you want to throw in there because Jimbo's doing a great job of recruiting and coaching them up. I mean, the change from Bowden is night and day. So, you know, but that's about it. Nobody else belongs in there.
I have to think it's been exaggerated by the fact that they had so many guys get drafted that people assume that when you have that many guys get drafted that there's no one behind them. But that doesn't make any sense. It's not, I mean, does anyone think, and we know this is a silly statement, but Meyer didn't go start drinking Mai Tais once this class was in. They've been recruiting even harder since, and we all know recruiting has gotten better since. So it doesn't make any sense. We will leave you people with that to chew on. Our thanks to Fox R 2001 for bringing that up and putting that on the message board and throwing me some credit in there. We always appreciate that. We'll be back next week with Duane. We appreciate him stopping by. Have a great one, Bucknuts.